guys, it's Kelly. I am back with my final layout using the main kit from my Creative Scrapbook Kit Club. And the kit this month is full of Chamel's new line, Go Now Go. And the background paper that I am just covering up with craft, I love, but it is very, very busy. So I decided that I wanted to use it as a frame around this page that I am going to be making about my son. So I am going to gut it because I really love all of the different colors. I think it's supposed to be similar to a map, maybe like a road map, or I'm not quite sure. But anyway, I just thought it was really neat. So I am going to gut it because I'm not going to be doing any mixed media on it, so I don't need to have it, behind my cardstock just as a reinforcer. So this layout or this process video is going to be a little bit longer than I usually like to have them, strictly because I'm going to be doing something a little different on this, and I wanted you to really be able to see the process. And this is especially, I think, neat for those who do not have a silhouette. There's different ways that you can add some creative embellishing with your layouts without having to have a silhouette. So the pictures of my son are of him playing with string. He, when he was younger, got into, making like Jacob's ladder and things like that. So I had taken these pictures and I decided that I was going to do a series on them. And I wanted to have some string art. So I decided that I was going to use an arrow because I felt like that would be pretty easy to draw with my ruler, and also to, sketch out and to use crochet thread to really, make it have a semblance of string art. So I'm just using guides on my ruler, and, I just measured out a certain distance and just to see, what I thought would look right. And I just lightly sketched a line between the 2 points. So this was my starting point, but I thought that I really wanted to make the arrowhead a little bit bigger. So I just take the length out a little bit, and I'm just going to re-sketch right over it. And I'm not going to erase the lines just yet. I tried to use a very light hand when I did this because I knew that erasing would, you don't want to have to erase too much on your layout, but if you do, using the white eraser like I will be using makes it much easier because it doesn't rip off the paper and it doesn't streak with the lead like I think some of the pink erasers usually do. So, like I said, I'm just trying to get my points down, and here's where I go erasing some of the little bit of lines before I poke my holes. I wanted to still have the lines as a reference guide for me to poke my holes. And this is where I bring out my crochet thread, and then I bring out some embroidery floss, and I'm trying to decide which one that I want. And I end up going with the crochet thread, and I chose that because it's a little bit thicker and I felt like it would make more of a visual impact on the page, number one, and number two, it was more similar to the the string that he used when he was obsessed with making these shapes. So I'm not going to make you watch the whole bit of me starting. The arrowhead of this, though, is where all of the fancy part comes. So I'm going to really show that in detail. But I wanted you to be able to see, especially for those who don't have a silhouette or don't really know where to start, just how easy it is to take a simple shape and do something creative with your layout. So with the crochet thread, you can find it at any big craft store, and I just use a needle. The needles come with different size holes, and I just use the the needle that has the the hole that will just allow that thread to come in. Because if it's too small, then it's a really struggle. It's a struggle to get the thread through. And if it's too big, then you're going to be leaving bigger holes in your paper, and you don't want to do that. So I'm just using a simple back stitch, and I'm just going over the, going across the lines of the paper, how I wanted it to be. And I'm going to fast forward here now until I've done the entire outline, because that was the easy part. Now for the arrow, what I am doing is I am selecting random holes, and I am just going, when I go up, and I will just pick a random point going across, and when I go back up through the next hole, I'm just taking it one step over, and I'm randomly picking the holes. I'm just moving my string around to see what looks good, and I am going to continue going through the holes around the arrow until, number one, I have all of the holes have some thread going in and out, and until it just looks right to me. So I don't make you watch the whole thing, but I really wanted to leave this part of the process in so that you could see just how easy it was. And yes, it did take a bit of time, but for me, watching something like this come together is just part of the fun. So I don't mind taking the time on some layouts like this. So here is where I have finished the arrow, and I've pulled the pictures out, and I have also pulled just some random embellishments and went ahead and stuck my title on some wax paper just so I could play around with it. I chose these 3 photos, and I did print them smaller because I wanted you to be able to see the progression of what he was making. And then at the end, he just, had a silly little, he put it up like a mustache on his face. So it was just really cute. And I just thought that the series in a horizontal line was pretty cool. So I'm trying to figure out if I want to back the photos with any pattern paper, and I believe I end up just choosing not to. I did not want to make it too busy. I decided that I wanted to go ahead and put some of the embellishments down first and figure out where my title was before I further added anything else, I guess, to the page, just because there's so much going on between the arrow and the background paper that I did not want it to be too much. So I'm going to play around with the title and trying to figure out which pieces I want where, and I ultimately decide to leave the title where it is now because I felt like it nestled in the arrow pretty well. And I have just some cut aparts, some chipboard pieces, some wood veneer, just little things that I had pulled that had the colors that were in the photos and in the background pattern paper. And as you can tell, I'm trying to keep somewhat of a central design, but I'm keeping in mind as well that I really want to do quite a bit of journaling on this page. So I decide that what you see right now is about what you're going to get with the page, and underneath the arrow I'm going to have several lines where I am going to journal about this hobby / obsession that he had for quite a while. It was really cute when I saw these photos. One of the first things that I remembered is how, when I was doing laundry, I would end up pulling out multiple strings. He would leave them in his pocket and they would end up getting washed, and I'd find them in the dryer. And I wasn't always one of those together moms that emptied out her boys' pockets before I put his clothes in the wash. And yes, I know that was kind of silly because I found quite a few things, but so yeah, I just remembered, pulling it out of the dryer, and I talk about that as well in the journaling. So I decide that I'm going to just leave the photos with the white border. I liked the simplicity and the central design that the layout was taking. And, you know, I wanted to just have the things that worked, I guess, as best as I could without being too much. So this little star is one that I had made while I was playing around with some copper embossing powder, and I was playing around seeing if I could get some more embellishments that would match with the thickers. And the simple star shape was one that just worked well, and I had punched out a couple and just decided to use just one of them on top of that little captured die cut. So again, the journaling that I am writing is fairly long, but just how he became obsessed with the string art. He at daycare saw someone doing it and he thought it was really cool. And, you know, we checked out books at the library and he learned all sorts of different configurations. I think, you know, like Jacob's Ladder, the Cat's Cradle, and there were several others. And so I just document that. And I really wanted to make sure that I could get that part of the story down. And I chose to handwrite my journaling. It's funny, I like some of my journaling typed and some of it handwritten. And I feel like sometimes the more personal the page is, the more I tend to want to handwrite my journaling. So that was the only decision with this. Plus, I didn't want to do white strips, and I don't have the 12 by 12 typewriter. That is on my Christmas list. So that would be something that you could also do. So I am going to take the pen and just outline around the craft just to bring a little bit more definition to the layout, and that's it. So if you want to, if you're interested in kit clubs, check out the details below in the detail section of the video. I will link it to my creative scrapbook, and I have some stills at the end. So thanks so much for joining me, guys. I hope you have a great day, and I will see you soon. Bye.